From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, and welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya. Tonight we're talking about the 2004 sci-fi comedy G.O.R.A. Directed by... Now we don't get names right anyway, but these are all Turkish names, and I'm going to do my best and probably very poorly do it. We've got Ömer Faruk Sorak as the director, and we had, this sort of confused me as well when I looked at this, but we had Cem Yılmaz and then Cem?
It's Cem.
Cem
Yılmaz.
Cem Yılmaz.
On Wikipedia, he's got a
pronunciation. There you go. So check out the Wikipedia. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Yes. Turn back now if you haven't seen this film. And if you haven't seen this film, you probably have some sanity left.
No. You should
but then
really...
tune back in and have a listen to what we've got to say, because it is certainly not your typical movie.
No, definitely not. And I think the whole preface we probably have to say is it is a science fiction comedy. Like, definitely.
It is not a science fiction with comedic elements.
No.
It is a comedy set in a science fiction environment.
Yeah, that's probably the better way. Yeah, that's probably a much better way to put it. Sorry. So what's your number one takeaway from this science fiction comedy G.O.R.A? Sorry?
Okay, Commodore 64 is an amazing piece of equipment.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That is a really good plot point in the film, I reckon.
Well, I reckon I had a Commodore 64 back in the day, and I recognised that the tape drive that he was putting his Matrix-style knowledge tapes into, the mixtape.
The mixtape, yeah.
Including the best hits of, I can't remember what the band name was now.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I recognise it as an 80s band. Anyway, so Commodore 64 is an amazing piece of equipment, and I think the main character, Reef, says at the end, humans are human even when they're alien.
Yeah.
Which is...
very poetic.
Very, what do you call it? Timely commentary now.
Yeah.
In the current climate of society and politics.
Okay.
That's it. There's I'm finding this is one of those movies where when I was watching it, it was kind of funny, but now I'm thinking back at some of the scenes and things, and it's quite funny.
It is funny. It was funny. It was laugh out loud funny, this movie, I reckon. It reminded me a bit like the Naked Gun series. You know what I mean? Like there's a bit of slapstick comedy in this film. Like it's not just comedy. It's that really silly, stupid comedy. But what we like to talk about, of course, science fiction. It was all targeted at science fiction.
The whole thing was there was Star Wars, Matrix.
Yeah, the Fifth Element. Yeah. And then what I joked about in my notes was Mission Impossible's in there, which is not science fiction, but it is in there.
It sort of is. You wouldn't typically call it science fiction, but it's certainly. Anyway, we'll have that fight another day.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, so that was. I've got to take away a few of those things there. It reminded me a bit of Adam Sandler as well. In many ways, that's kind of the humour where you're not sure if it's it's not politically correct, but you're not sure if it's actually offensive or not because it's being handled in a charming sort of a way. I found a couple of the jokes there. I was going, oh, should I be laughing at that?
Yeah.
In a genuine question as to whether it should be something to laugh at or not, as opposed to one of those ones where you go, oh, I know I shouldn't be laughing at that, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So it's quite good, that one.
It was pretty innocent comedy, I think, overall. There was a couple of sort of little digs, but I don't think there's any...
That's what I mean, is in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, his character is kind of this a bit rough around the edges, but overall sort of well-meaning and charming in his way, and that's sort of Adam Sandler's character. All of them are like
Sandler,
that.
Yeah.
And I felt there's a similarity here. This guy Arif was a bit rough. He was a used carpet salesman, a bit of a con artist of a low grade level, trying to sell fake alien photographs and convincing people to spend more money on carpets perhaps than they should. But and a few of the things he was kind of, you go, oh, that's a bit rough. But overall, he was kind-hearted, egalitarian in view, and
that character trait sort of paid dividends then, in comedy gold of being on the alien ship and sort of going, hey, look, I need to get off and I'm going to use my mobile phone. And so it's still, because he was that type of character, he was a talker, an innocent talker in a way. Like, con artist on a very minor level. I didn't really think he's a bad guy at all at the start.
No, as I said, he was just trying to convince people that the photographs of alien UFOs that were actually just various dishes that he'd...
That's right.
You could still read the name brand on them.
You could, yeah. Yeah.
But, okay, well, let's send a hope, warning, or experiment on this one.
Definitely, I reckon a hope. And it's pretty much because of that message you said before. Like, there's a big poetic speech at the end of this film. During it, he kind of, a riff, he comes back to that idea of like, we need to stick together, we need to go through with this. And then at the end, it's like, you need to be human to kind of understand that there's flaws in the universe. So I see it as a hope. And it's also that, I suppose, if you take the plot, and we'll go through it in a minute, but like that idea in the plot of he sort of saves the day as a human, even though he doesn't have to, you know what I mean? Like he does that. Yeah, he's doing it because he wants to get back home to planet Earth, but there's no guarantee of that. He just sort of does the right thing.
Yeah, it's the correct thing to do. And he even deals nicely with the bad guy who took him prisoner.
Yes.
And was, I guess, tried to kill him and so forth. Didn't end up throwing him off a building to impale him on something dreadful, but rather, I think he just got taken prisoner or something. Captured at the end. It was just arrested at the end, and that's where he sort of ends up sort of saying, you've got to understand that things happen and we can all be friends.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah. So we have G.O.R.A. We have G.O.R.A. 2004. It's obviously a Turkish production. And it's, these writers and directors are put together, and Arif is the screenwriter as well.
The guy that plays Arif.
The guy that plays it as Cem.
Yes, Cem is a stand-up comedian and a writer, and he's a bit well recognised. Yeah, he's got various awards for roles in other movies.
Yeah.
A filmmaker, screenwriter, cartoonist, musician.
Yeah, right. So he does a bit of everything. And
he's a talented fellow.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. Is there anything science fiction-y going on in your life? Sorry?
I just finished watching the 3 episodes of Black Mirror that are out.
Okay.
I'm hoping there's going to be more in this season. There usually is 6, so like 3 of them so far.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't checked them out yet.
And yeah, the first episode I found particularly amusing and has a very interesting look at artificial reality, virtual reality, and relationships.
Like it.
And it's a good take on that. I'm not going to say anything more about it because Black Mirror is one of these shows you kind of can't be revealing the things, but it's quite good.
Yeah, I look forward to checking that out actually.
And the last episode also is very good. The middle one's is a good show, a good episode, but I don't think it explores enough deeply. But the last one, I haven't quite finished that episode. It's quite a long episode, a bit longer than my train ride. So I'll be watching it tomorrow afternoon. And that one's about artificial intelligence and the sort of cult of celebrity and things.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
Yeah. Great ideas on Black Mirror.
Yeah, and I'm interested in having a go at writing myself a science fiction novel, getting some ideas, including
exciting,
particularly around black hole generators, because the concept of having a black hole generator is very exciting, and there's various people have put forward ways that you could do that.
Yep.
In current understanding, they're a bit far-fetched, but they can be done with our existing technology. Just the amount of wealth required would be phenomenal. But that just means that in 20, 30 years' time, it'll not be phenomenal. It'll just be fantastic. And another 30 years after that, it'll just be kind of commonplace.
Yeah.
And we'll all have black hole generators.
Well, if money is an issue, I did see a news article the other day that there is an asteroid out in space, not very far from Earth. And in the article, whatever the scientists that they were quoting, he was saying that basically there's enough natural resources on this asteroid to make every single human a billionaire.
Yeah, I'm
right?
not sure
So,
economics works that way, but yeah.
No, he said it would destroy the world economy if they managed to kind of like bring this back to the planet because, or someone was successful in mining this asteroid because it's got more gold and steel and blah, blah, blah than we have on Earth, basically.
But
and it's just an asteroid.
One of the promises of space exploration.
So I'm just saying that could pay for your black hole generators.
Well, I was reading actually just recently on the moon, they discovered a big deposit of iron, which they reckon was probably an old asteroid that hit during the cooling phase of the moon. So it didn't sink all the way to its core.
Yep.
So it's actually at the top of the pole, the North Pole. And it's many billions of tons of iron, basically just sitting there.
Yep.
It came just after we watched 2001 Space Odyssey, where they uncovered an artifact on the moon. And this thing's, I think, 4 kilometers in, so it's deep in the crust.
Yeah.
Not 40 meters, I think.
Yeah.
So, but invariably people made the comparison that 2001 Space Odyssey started off with discovering an artifact at the North Pole in this very crater on the moon.
Yeah, right.
So
there you go.
That's quite interesting. So
well,
it's all out there if you can get the mine.
I'm sure BHP and those sort of companies would look at this. They would. I think these days they would start to think about it. Don't you reckon? If it's billions,
knowing who owns it.
Well, but that's the thing. I don't think anyone does, do they? So it's just sort of first in, best dressed.
Does no one own it, or does everyone own it? I mean,
that's the ethical
the moon
question
there, and just because you got there with the mining equipment doesn't mean you get to extract it. I mean, this very question is asked of current terrestrial mining.
Yeah.
Here in Australia, a mining company stakes out a bit of land, digs up the earth, and sells it off somewhere.
Yeah.
Why exactly do they get so much of the profit?
That's right.
When it's actually Australia's dirt they're selling. Yeah. I can't just go start selling the dirt in my backyard for billions of dollars.
Well, you could if
you found staked out a mining client, but
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. And yourself?
I'm really close to finishing the feature script, so I think that will be done over this next kind of 5 to 10 days, so maybe by the next episode. It's not science fiction, but I'm going to do that. I've got my little local connection, and I'm also going to enter that into the final draft competition and also the independent film Australian competition, IF, I think it's called. So there's that, and then I mentioned it last time, the little sci-fi web series. I'm just going to develop that a bit more. I've had a couple other episodes sort of ideas, and again, they would just be really short. They're kind of like all little short films, maybe 3 to 5 to 6 minutes kind of thing. That's the way I see that idea panning out. So yeah, just developing that. So yeah, exciting stuff. Yeah, but it's going to be so good to just have that script done. My second feature totally locked in the barrel,
Well, you get that situation where at the start, it's always very exciting. Yeah. In the middle, you're labouring. Yeah, you're really getting in there. You're going, this is just fantastic. The last third or quarter, you're going, when does this finish?
I know. And I'm
just going to get to the end. When does that happen?
Well, I've done that, and I'm going over it like that I've done that real sort of solid rinse through, and then now I'm doing the kind of grammar and formatting check, and you feel like you just keep tweaking, but I'm up to page, I think 85 out of 94. So it's like, I'm so close.
Have you done a live read through? You've actually yourself at least.
I sort of do that as I go. Yeah. I haven't done like the start to finish like that, if that's what you're asking.
Because I just did a read through of a scene from my book 1, so that like audiobook style.
Yeah.
So people get a feel for how it's different from the audio play. And I found as I was reading it out loud, I was sort of just tweaking a few extra words here and there not major things, but shifting 3 words off the end, put it at the start with a comma instead, and just a couple of bits and pieces which when you're reading it in your head,
don't tell me this now. It sounds
you don't even notice, but when you say it out loud, you suddenly realize actually that's just a bit awkward. That's not quite right.
That's good advice. That's really good advice, actually. In the Final Cut software I've got, you can assign voices but it's kind of all the same voice, just a bit distorted.
All right.
But yeah, so which is a bit weird and even weird. Like there's an old man, a young girl or whatever. But you can do that and that will read it out loud to you. So, but it's a bit robotic as well. But it is a real person's voice. It's
Just
not
write a script that has robotic people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Autism, the movie.
That's right. All robots, real robots, like G.O.R.A.
Actually,
So
I thought of having an audio play where one of the characters was just a computer-generated voice.
that's it.
Easier.
Yeah.
To pay them. Okay.
Red Dwarf, like we've got, the idea of a
Holly.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a robot in this movie which I found peculiar. 216.
Yes.
He was a funny chap.
He was a very odd character, the 216 robot. A good model, apparently.
Yeah, an upgrade.
An upgrade on, we're not too sure. And I know Gravel, the character of Gravel, or Gavril, again, pronunciation, sorry. We can be corrected, so get online, listen if you're listening in, writers and directors. Correct us, please correct us.
Cem Yılmaz, get in touch with us.
Get in touch. We'll put you on the next episode and you can totally take the piss out of our pronunciation.
We'll tag you on Twitter.
So G.O.R.A is about a young Turk, a ref, who's kidnapped by extraterrestrials and he's taken aboard a ship and they've done the same to other humans. And he's taken to the planet G.O.R.A, where he's kind of basically, humans are treated as slaves and they're put to work in really crappy jobs. They're treated as presents for the kingdom, that kind of thing.
They randomly get chips put in their head for no reason.
For no reason. They sort of become zombies a little bit. And he, Arif has to stand up to the commander to kind of get back to planet Earth. So that's kind of like a really short synopsis of it. We have some major characters. Arif is played by Cem. But he also does do General Loga. He's the good and the bad guy in this, which is really interesting.
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that.
Ah, you didn't know?
No.
Wow. Yeah, well, this is his talents. This is amazing, isn't he? So he's the good and the bad guy.
Yes,
is that doing your head in?
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of thinking about it. Go, well, okay.
Yeah. So he's the good and the bad guy. We have Princess... what was her name? Princess Cheka, I think, is it? Cheku. We have the 216 robot. We have Kuna. We have Gavril. And then we have...
Bob Marley Faruk.
That's it. Bob Marley Faruk.
My name is Bob Marley Faruk.
I mean, before you were saying, should you laugh at things? Sometimes Adam Sandler goes to, is this a joke? Like, I was a bit like, this is funny, but is it supposed to be funny? Like...
I think it was particularly
like
because
it was a stereotype of
a porn movie director gone science fiction.
Yeah,
but
was his background.
Never managed to make his first science fiction film.
No, so sad.
Poor fellow.
And
he ran a bar. He had trouble, of course, because in Turkey his name was Bob Marley, and he's not anything like Bob Marley.
Not really. No.
He's far more like Faruk than he is Bob Marley.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think was the joke.
I think it was. So anyway, that's kind of the key list of characters for the film. So we start off, as you mentioned, we have Arif. He's a little bit of a con artist. He's trying to con Japanese tourists about the sort of vintage of, the tourist locations in Turkey.
He's not trying very hard.
No, because he's even writing on the walls or whatever.
Paintings, whatever.
He's selling used carpets. That's his sales pitch. He's also taking these really bad photos of UFOs, which are just plates or whatever in the sky.
I can't help but think that's a bit of a poke at himself there,
yes.
or his own Turkish people being a used carpet salesman.
I think so, yeah.
As if every tourist goes through and gets hit by the fast-talking used carpet salesman.
Yeah. And I think there's good jokes in there in that start bit about what you're exactly saying. Like he's kind of with that moment where it's like, oh, it's Prince Charles, and
there's tourists and there's British people come to buy cups.
Would you like some tea? And they go, no, thank you. And he's like, put on the tea anyway, in the native language. And it was like, I liked that joke. I thought that's funny. It's like he did take the piss out of himself, I think, in that moment. And then all of a sudden, from the British, he's kidnapped and he's zapped across a spaceship by a General Loga, as the impression I get. And they've kidnapped a variety of humans from all over the planet. And on board, this is where we get some great comedy, I think, where he is a used, snake, is that what they say? Snake oil salesman. Is that right? That's right. I think he's
a used snake.
That's it, right? That kind of person tries to weasel their way out of any trouble, don't they? Yeah. And that's what he's basically doing. Like he tries to trick the guard. He's saying, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not part of these people. Like one of the other humans resists and gets kind of zapped, and he like, hey, you don't stand in line, kind of thing. Like he's always the troublemaker in a way, but he's using his charm, his wit, his language, and I really liked that. He's visited by a mystery man in a cloak, which straight away is a great rip-off of Star Wars, isn't it? It comes distorted in there, telling him, I'm pretty sure, that he has the Force within him. And
You're the chosen one.
You are the chosen one,
Use the Force.
Which he disagrees with profusely.
Keeps giving him a little jab in the ribs. Fuck.
So he's like, this hologram image of Gavriel, or we don't know at that point, I don't think. Anyway, they get to G.O.R.A. He learns the hard way that there's no easy way out. In fact, he tries a variety of ways to escape this prison. It keeps going on about the air vents.
They go through the ventilation all the time.
Yeah, but he keeps kind of he comes through the air vents and he's then in front of guards. He dresses as a guard and smokes.
And he's noticeably shorter than all the other guards.
And all that. And so he keeps getting kind of rejected from all his ideas. And he also, within the prison, other humans, they're slaves, they're got chips and they're kind of dribbling.
That's just the announcement over the intercom. The following humans will present themselves to be given chips.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just randomly selected to get a chip in the head and basically lobotomize them.
Yeah. He's put in line, he's put in place. Other humans, there's a moment that it kind of is like there will be a confrontation with these other humans. It was a bit, I wasn't too sure what was about to happen in that scene. And then we do have Bob Marley Faruk kind of save him, pull his weight, because Bob Marley Faruk is like the kitchen aid or kitchen hand or something.
Cook or something.
Cook, whatever. But he's got a bit of power. So all of a sudden he didn't admit it to Arif, but then he says, well, he's Turkish as well. So that's their affinity. We're both Turks. So we'll look after each other compared to...
he makes a point, though, that everyone's talking Turkish. So how are you supposed to know who's human or not?
That's right. So, which again, I thought was a really cool joke at itself, that they all did speak. Because they do that right at the very start, don't they? They speak English and they go, we don't need to speak English. We can speak...
Yeah, don't just speak English. I mean, you speak Turkish.
Yeah, and the rest of the movie's in Turkish.
And then... actually, that opening scene where they're saying, opening the fucking shields... the fucking button is fucking flashing at me. So I don't know how much English the Turkish audiences would know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So I can't quite tell at what levels that joke's going for, but I found it very funny that there's people who are clearly enunciating fucking in front of almost everything.
Yes.
And then they swapped it Turkish and didn't swear at all.
Yeah. So General Logar, impresses the king, but not his daughter, the Princess Cheku. That's it. You say that really well. Sorry, actually. But so he impresses the king with the fact that he's come back from Earth with slaves and all this and these little gifts, those weird gifts he gives out to them all. But not the daughter, not Princess Cheku. And he wants to marry her. He wants to know, has she been talking about him? Is she in love with him? But he's basically told no, she's not into him. And Arif with kind of getting to know Bob Marley Faruk. They work in the kitchen. They're both Turkish. They get along well. And really, it's a great plot point, I think, because basically he's saying to him, well, let's escape. Let's get a plan. And Bob Marley says, well, back on Earth, and we get this great flashback, don't we? That he was making porn movies and then he has a science fiction script and he's given the green light to make the science fiction script. And then it's kind of like the director gets arrested. And
what was he arrested for? Something ridiculous. And he just immediately moves to it. Puts his handcuffs on and gets dragged out.
And that was a riff again. That was Germ again.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to go back to Earth because he's like, I owe money. Like if I go back, I owe money, I'm going to die. So it was kind of a nice plot point because it made a riff kind of, get used to the world that he was in now. Princess Cheku then we have a great scene. She's obsessed with Earth. She's dancing with the 216 robot, and they're having a good time dancing away. And she says she loves how humans love to dance and sing, and they seem to have a culture.
It's like humans do.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, 216 goes, oh no, that's terrible. And I'm wondering if his flamboyant speech patterns were some sort of take on C-3PO.
Yeah.
C-3PO
I think so.
was a bit, oh dear, Master.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea.
He was. I don't know. I think it was just the joke of it, but I mean, it was a very flamboyant robot, playing off a stereotype. But I mean, we had Bob Marley Farouk in this movie, so the movie is tongue in cheek, yeah.
And that's what I mean. Is like I'm going. Is it okay for me to laugh at these things? But it's presented in such a playful, charming sort of a way. I found that it didn't really paint anyone out to be bad, as it were, villainous or incorrect.
No.
But yeah, certainly every character was a bit of a caricature.
Yes, it was, yeah. Definitely.
Logar was distinctly evil and ridiculous, over the top. Let's just blow up the whole town, shoot everyone.
And I mean, it's important later in the film. But how about that little guy that kept like ordering him away? Like he just kept wandering into every scene.
An object is approaching.
Why do you keep? They would just dismiss him and get out of here.
What are you, an oracle?
Yeah, get out. He just kept dismissing. Like he never had a chance to explain himself. So. And pretty much, it's good that we said that, because the next main plot point, I think, is that there's a mystery fireball suddenly heading to the planet G.O.R.A. And this is a trick from Logar. He's caused it, or he's brought it towards them or something. And he has a plan that he says, I will save the planet through this special weapon. Don't rely on our old customs, the 4 pyramids or something, the four rocks or sacred artifacts. And so he has this big weapon and he sets it up, and the king, and he says, I will save G.O.R.A. if I can then marry Princess Cheku.
Well, he burnt the instruction manual for the ancient artifacts.
Yes. Yeah.
So that no one knew how to use them.
That's right, as well, yeah. So he destroyed the way that so other people could use it, and he's got this special weapon. The king sort of reluctantly agrees. And even her mother says to her, well, sometimes you have to do these things, for the greater good kind of thing. Because she is really repulsed by him, that's Princess Cheku. The fireball comes and Logar he's impotent. He can't fire the weapon.
his huge weapon fails.
His weapon fails.
A bit of it falls off to the side and he can't operate it properly. And it's funny you do say the word impotent there. And
because it is a bit of foreshadowing.
A bit of a... play on that there is with a big masculine gun.
Yeah.
Which then
won't work.
He can't operate it, and he's a bit embarrassed. This never happened.
Yeah. And anyway, so the humans are all watching this huge fireball, and they're watching General Logar. He's not successful. And Arif keeps he realizes this is the same thing from The Fifth Element. Like, it's the movie The Fifth Element, and everyone else doesn't really get what he's talking about. He's going, it is from The Fifth Element. You need to use the sacred stones.
Wood, fire, air, and earth.
So he convinces them. How did he convince them to let him go there? It was with the robot, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think the robot sort of snuck him out.
That's right, I think.
To get through the ventilation, no doubt.
Yeah, anyway, so he rocks up in front of everyone and he says, I can, it's from The Fifth Element. They don't know what he's talking about. I was really liking all of that, because Fifth Element's such a great sci-fi. And
we should probably do that one day.
We probably should. Probably put it on our classic list. Anyway, so he says to the king, I can do this. We can use the stones, and but all you need to then, what I want in return is I want to go back to Earth. And the king says, sure, we'll agree to those terms. And he does it, and it's quite a good scene where he's blowing on it. Air. No, it doesn't work. Wood.
It's wood, earth, air, and fire. Fire, air, and fire. And it says, wood? Wood's not an element. Don't you mean water?
Yeah.
He says, no, wood. And he gets a piece of wood. He goes, wood, and drops it on it. Nothing happened.
Nothing. Yeah, but he kept doing the wood on every stone. And he kept then changing it to one of the elements. And then all of a sudden he's done all 4. You think, it should work, but he He needs the princess in the middle.
The fifth element.
The fifth element, the love,
or life, or whatever it is, yeah.
But again, I mean, it's quite a nice little scene because he gets her down there and he asks her permission.
Well, I thought that was really good because I was going, oh, how is this
Is this going to be a bit creepy?
Is this going to be a bit creepy that he's just kind of like... But no, he goes, oh, no, well, we're supposed to kiss, but I suppose it doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, no, like, because she'd previously in the show, in the movie gone, I want to know what it's like when humans kiss.
Yeah.
So we have a build up here that she's not actually into him.
Yeah. But she wants to
know this whole human custom.
And he was being very charming and nice because he was kind of like, no, we don't have to do it. Like, we can just kind of, And
I think that really saved the cat for me, as it were. It really made me think, no, he is genuinely kind, nice, interested in people.
Yep.
And humanity.
So he's done this. He kisses her, and the fifth element, boom, fireball from the sky. Oh, he's going to go back to Earth, isn't he, Surrey? It's all going to be a deal done. But no, General Ogre.
Halfway through.
Yeah, I know, that's right. General Ogre, he says, what? He's an Earthling. He's a slave. Arrest him. Get him out of here. And he dismisses it all, and the deal and everything is, and Arif is taken back to the prison with the 216 robot. And the wedding will go ahead, he claims. And so he kind of pushes ahead with that. So the princess wants to escape the whole city, and obviously the robot and Arif are together.
Oh, well, she discovers that she's half human.
Yeah,
her dad was a human. That's why she going, I want to find my dad then.
Yes, yeah.
Or did I just take you?
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's pretty much what exactly happens in that. So with that, she decides we need to get out of here, and they come up with the plan that Arif and the robot, like all of them, could get out, and they're going to go to they're going to go to a city, aren't they? Another town.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Yeah, which is the connection to her Earth father. And so they do escape back through the air vents again. Yeah. Bob Marley doesn't really want to come, but Arif convinces him to come.
There's no way out.
Yeah,
I've tried. You can't get out.
And he says, well, I'll come for the journey, I think he ends up being convinced to come on the journey. Yeah, so then they end up in this town with the princess, and they come out of the sewer. So they've gotten out of the air vents. And, we're now in this, which I reckon was quite funny because I think the film being Turkish, it's their cultural version of it, because all of a sudden we're in an alien Turkish market, really. It's very similar to what you get in those kind of like, people haggling, but it's an alien environment.
Billowing cloth.
Yeah.
Stalls,
yeah. It was very Turkish to me, but
everyone greeting Bob Marley, Faruk.
They all knew him.
Hey, welcome back. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, that's right. He knew everyone. And anyway, so they're trying to find someone to get vehicles. They know the connection to get the vehicles to escape. Again, I think great scene was those transport vehicles, and they speed off into the desert. Logar is, however, pretty quickly on his tail, and as you just mentioned before, he rocks up to this town and just burns it all to the ground.
Even the guy he keeps questioning people, and they say they don't know anything, so he shoots them, and then finally gets a person who's going to talk, and then he's and he
shoots him.
Yes, what's the quip? Is something like, you're going to talk to us. Oh, talking to you would be really bad news. And the guy just shoots him. And we hadn't asked him the question yet.
We hadn't even got to the question. So anyway, he burns it to the ground in laughter and evilness as they do. Arif and the princess and the robot and Bob Marley are out in the desert for the night, campfire, and the princess or Jakku and Arif have a nice moment. They talk about what men are like on planet Earth, and he talks about Brad Pitt. These are someone like Brad Pitt. They're good-looking boys, and he talks about himself, and they're going to kind of have a moment, and then they're interrupted, and it's Logar and his men come firing out, so they all sort of run off into
Bob Marley's fart.
Bob Marley's fart interrupts it, but I'm trying to speed the plot a little bit. Come on, and so that they try to escape, and the princess is recaptured. General Logar is then like, the wedding goes on. The other men have been destroyed by the soldiers. We move forward. The next day, the boys are disheveled and, alone, and they've lost the princess, and they don't really know where they are, and they don't have any connection. They have no more vehicles to get anywhere. And then he realizes Garvel, and so I think he did maybe rock up again in Vision or something, but they realize that they're close to him, so they head to him, don't they?
Yeah. And they find Garvel, and they have a very interesting scene there where they talk about the princess's father, this mystery father. And they go,
That's right, yeah.
You're his father?
Yeah.
And Gabriel says, no, I'm not her father. And everyone turns to look at Bob Marley. And they say, no. No, he's not. No, he died. Her father's dead. He was a fighter pilot. And he
died. Yeah, and he's also saying he's been stuck here on G.O.R.A for a long time and he's too old to go back to Earth. But he's, he chose a riff because of the mobile phone connection. He picked up on his mobile phone. He was waiting for someone that he could connect with, and it was the mobile phone signal that did it.
That's why he's the chosen one.
That's why then he was the chosen one. So then we have a great montage of getting ready, training, because they decide, well, the plan, storm the castle. It's a good plot point. Storm the castle. They need a plan. They're going to save the princess. So they need to train themselves up, don't they? And so we have this great montage of really, taking the piss out of the Matrix, as you mentioned before, the Commodore 64.
Commodore 64 mixtape, so he learns all the martial arts and
he's got a plethora of little tiny
classic hits of those. Yeah, I wish I.
And tantric sex, I think, is in there or something like that.
The Tower of Sex.
That's right. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of things that he can, and it's this awful little hair salon thing that they put on.
Hair dryer.
Yeah. But when he emerges, he's a different man, isn't he? He's well trained, and I love it that there's a line there that he says. He sort of says on the sly, "When I get back to Earth, I'll get rid of it." Because you think of the Matrix, you think, "Wow, it'd be so cool to be trained in a second, a few seconds in kung fu or whatever." And I thought that was such a funny line from there. As soon as I get back to Earth, I'll delete it all.
All this stuff is good.
And there's also they're learning from Gabriel. They're classroom scenario. They re-mock out the Matrix, of him bending back with but it's like they're just reenacting the
hair dryer, and he's like.
He's trying to bend backwards, and the camera is telling them, take the camera around.
Yeah, when I bend back, you got to spin around with the camera.
So there was a great few sort of moments of
Karate Kid. He's painting and everywhere he's walking, he's doing Manta style kung fu or something like that.
But that's great. He's like, I think you just wanted me to paint your wall for free, and then he goes, no, it's all part of
martial arts is not just used for beating people up.
And he's doing the kind of the kung fu, and I think it's supposed to be 3 suns, in the background setting, and it's his shadow. So I thought that was really nice. So they plan the attack. The idea is the wedding's going ahead. So when we cut to the castle, so to speak, the space station or whatever it is, the wedding's in full steam. The guests and the bride is getting ready and all that sort of stuff. She's still saying, I don't want to marry him. And, so all of that confrontation is going on. They come back through the air vents and they're going through it. And the whole time they're filming it saying, this will be because actually we missed that. Gabriel had an old video camera, didn't he? So that was trying to film it. They're filming it because he's saying this is going to be the best action film ever.
Best science fiction you've ever filmed, Bob.
We're presuming Bob's filmed a few. Anyway, and then when they're going through the air vents, they discover Logar and his assistant are having an intimate moment with that little guy that they've kept dismissing, which was so random. And we as an audience, we cut in on that scene, and it's like a sexy scene.
They're in a bed with a big fur rug over all of them, and they were just having a chat and a little sip of champagne or a smoke of a cigarette or something.
It's funny because as an audience, we sort of see them talk to him, and I think they ask him, what does he want? And he's like, he actually reveals who he is a little bit. And then we cut to Logar and they sort of see through the air vent that these 3 are in bed together having a moment. Anyway, and then the wedding is going ahead. Logar is playing the harp and then, to really seduce her really badly, and everyone's really happy and they're going to get married. And I liked how the princess and her mum, they had those really cool sort of crowns. They actually had really cool crowns, I thought. Really space-styled crowns. And Araf interrupts the wedding. This is the Mission Impossible. He's dun-dun-dun. He just comes flying through the ceiling hovering a foot off the ground. Interrupts the video, and he confronts Logar, who's kind of get rid of him. But he's like, no, play the video. So they play the video, and it's the three of them in bed, as you said, the 3 men in bed, and he's horrified. And of course, he's not only, that there's the men in bed when he's about to get married, but it's also that he talks about taking over from the king.
It's more the confessions of how he's blackmailing the king and how he's set up the fireball. And
That's right.
how he's basically, and he calls all the Gorans idiots. And they're all just stupid anyway.
Yeah. He's kind of like, abusing everyone. So there's no way he could become the king. And then I think there's a quick little fight with Arif, but because of his kung fu matrix, there's a Matrix moment.
There is the Matrix moment where he leaps up and
dodges the bullets, kicks him over. And then as you said as well, he's then just arrested. The king orders that he's arrested. And then for thanking Arif for saving G.O.R.A, he says, what do you want? And he says, well, we just want to return to Earth, basically. And the princess wants to because her father was from Earth. And so she wants to learn about Earth. Yeah, she wants to learn about Earth. And the king wishes that. And then just when they're about to depart, he gets his camera back. So he wants to, again, go right back to that start of taking a photo of an alien spaceship, so he does.
They do a selfie.
Yeah, they do. And then that's a nice transition to he's back on Earth, and the guy he's trying to sell that photo to says, oh, this is terrible. This is so fake. This is a terrible spaceship. So he's denied that. And then we come out and the princess in the car, and she kind of questions him, will she ever fit into Earth? And he's like, yeah, it'll just take some time, basically. Yeah. And that's the end. Roll credits.
They drive off in the convertible, and she's got the breakfast at Tiffany's scarf going. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so and rolling credits, really big, powerful credits, Turkish credits.
Yes, it was quite a... It's just...
There is some moments in this that are really funny.
This is definitely a movie here where, I found a few of the moments there quite humorous, and I was watching this on the train and had to stifle myself a few times, but now just thinking back on some of them as well, it's definitely a movie you think back on and realise that it's quite crazy. Yeah, I think it'd do very well with. You could probably do a bit of a drinking game. Yeah. Every time we talk about ventilation shafts.
I think also there's that movie that's so bad it's good. The Room out of America, and what happened with that movie was it was so bad and flopped. The Room. Oh. I'm pretty sure it's The Room. Yeah, you might need to Google that. And this guy has become famous because of this. I'm sure it's The Room. And anyway, that became it totally flopped and everything. But what happened was, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. And what's that guy's name?
Tommy Wiseau.
That's it, right? And this guy has built a career from this terrible movie where he funded it. He did it all himself. It was a crazy movie. And the thing is, the film became a success from like film students and stuff just going, this movie's so bad, it's so good. You know what I mean? And that's literally like screenings popped up over the world since I think it's about 2003 of this movie where people just go and they just laugh their butts off at it because it's so bad. But it's so bad, it's good. Now, G.O.R.A is actually good, I reckon.
It's deceptive, I thought. Because at times it's clearly done on a comedy budget, but it all fits the theme and the pacing and the fact that they've got some quite spectacular scenery, like some of the interiors of neon light filled corridors that you'd see in any spaceship. A bit over the top in many cases, but that's the whole point of it. So it is a very well sort of put together film, and the spaceships flying about and the gunfire and stuff was all very effective.
Yeah. And I think, like you're saying, this would be a good drinking game movie, but that's the other thing, like just festival. This would make a really good festival sort of movie for the right sort of audience, like an audience that's a bit like you and I, like we're going in with the right mindset. We're saying we're open to this movie being the best movie ever. We're open to it just being sci-fi. This movie's got heaps of great sci-fi in it. And then because it has a lot of those homages, and it's literally joking about those homages.
Yeah, a lot of little references there.
There are lots of little references that when you and I, we really enjoy sci-fi, you're like, you're picking up on a lot of them, and they're subtle enough or really obvious enough that it works. I think it does actually really work.
Well, the fact that he's in that market and he's paying for things, he tries to pay with some American dollars. Yeah. And they go, what is this? This is Earth currency. I don't want that. So he pulls out 1,000 lira or something. I don't know how much that is in Australian dollars. And they goes, oh yes, Turkish money. Yeah, now you talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that's another part of the comedy of the film that you and I maybe are a bit like, should we laugh at this or should we not? But I think there's enough of it in the film that they are joke in that they're Turkish, as well. Like there's a good laugh at themselves that they're not Hollywood, and they're not the big guys, and they're just sort of doing what they're doing.
Well,
and that's the funny thing.
There is the scene where they're going to pick a riff up from his cell to present him to the king, and he's squatting, taking a crap on the floor. That's one of those moments I was just watching going, this is so wrong, this film.
And I mean, that little guy that just keeps coming in, and you're like, there's an object approaching.
Strange object is approaching.
And they just abuse him every time.
And we find out he's just a child.
Yeah. Leave him alone. He's just a child. Yeah, I know. Well, at the end, doesn't he, like after Logar gets arrested, he kind of comes in, doesn't he? And then they go, Princess goes, don't hurt him. He's only a child. Yeah. But then if he was only a child, they just slept with him, didn't they?
Well, that's the implication. Certainly gave him champagne.
But he did run away, yeah. Anyway, so there's a lot to say about this movie. Definitely worth going to check out. So that's the plot and everything.
And of course, the reason Logar was so hellbent against humans was for his father's arrival to Earth to make friends.
Oh, yes. I'd forgotten that. You've just reminded me.
Some farmer sitting there. They go to look at the donkey the farmer's doing. The farmer goes, runs over.
Chases him away with
sticks. The robot falls over, and the first thing the farmer does is pulls his pants out and jumps on and rapes the robot. Yeah. That was something I was going, I can't believe they just did that.
I know. I'd forgotten
Except it's just like it's a reversal of a probe. So normally the human gets taken by the aliens and the machine comes down and probes them.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, the guy turns up with his robot. And his robot gets probed.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot that from the plot points, man. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that back up. The vision is back. It's just
the horror look on his face as this farmer is molesting his robot. Yeah. It's just like
yeah. Because it's such a they did that really well as well, because it's like like an old film,
isn't it? And sepia type thing, and the robot is clearly a guy in a tin suit,
and like the actual spaceship as well as like an old classic spaceship from the sort of 1950s films up on the hill.
Bad smoke.
And they walk down, and that he just wants to go on the robot to tell them off. I don't know who comes up with that idea, but that's great. It was funny.
That was definitely one of those moments where I wasn't sure. Should I laugh at it? I couldn't help it though, because it's just this guy in a Tin Man costume just.
I've forgotten about that. It's good moments in this film. See, we're laughing our butts off.
There you go. It's definitely. As I said, it's definitely one of these films where you think back at some of these scenes and you realise at how outlandishly amusing they are.
I think I said for 2001, it's a film that after you watch, you can't help but think about it. And I mean, G.O.R.A, you probably move on from, but like you and I just demonstrated, you start talking about a moment from it and you laugh. You can't help but think about some of the scenes.
It reminds me then of that movie, This Is Spinal Tap.
Yes.
You've seen that? I remember watching that and going, this is quite amusing.
Yeah.
But then when I was talking to other people about it and thinking back on each of these scenes, you realise
how funny it is.
How very well produced these little humorous scenes are. That's quite good. So I watched this on the train, which made it quite difficult because there were moments where I was doing that hoarse wheezing laugh, trying not to disturb too many passengers with my hilarity. It was quite good for that. I didn't watch this with my wife because she's not that into
Turkish movies? Oh, comedies.
I know. Have we watched any other Turkish movies? Maybe one, but I can't remember it. And that was quite good. I don't think you needed a large screen for this.
No. I watched it on my laptop as well on the train, so it was a couple of train journeys to get through it. So it was a bit interrupted, but I didn't feel that disrupted the storyline. You knew what was going on.
Didn't have long build-up tension. You're not watching a Alfred Hitchcock classic thriller. Yeah. Maybe we should do another entire podcast about Alfred Hitchcock movies. There's a lot of them.
There is. So yeah, I mean, I was happy to watch it on that, and I think like we've been mentioning, maybe this works well as a festival film. People laughing and talking during it, maybe as a drinking game film, or you could sit around with a bunch of buddies, I think, and just watch this movie, and like you could get up to the fridge and snacks and stuff, and you'd follow the story. It wouldn't really matter. too much, and you could pause it and rewind moments that you thought were funny. Did the farmer just molest the robot? Let's watch that again.
Let's go.
There's Logan and even that start. Like I kind of watched. I'd forgotten about it as well, but even that start, they're swearing and they're screaming, and then they say, "Well, we don't need to do this in English," they swap to Turkish,
as if English is just swearing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a funny break. And this movie does break the fourth wall. I want to mention it in the technicalities in it, and they broke it then, and they break it later in the film twice more. And it's funny that when films do that, because I think they are kind of joking at themselves as well. You can do it in a very dramatic way, but this movie they're doing it as a joke. So. Yeah, it's a good movie, I think, for those reasons, and you don't have to stress too much about watching on a big screen or a little screen. But it also holds its time. I'm again going in watching this viewing. I don't Google anything. I don't look at anything. I just watched it, and then realizing afterwards, it's 2004.
Yeah, so I was suspicious because of the sheer number of Matrix things. I sort of thought, if this was a 2018, 2016 sort of thing, it seems a bit of a delay there. But 2004, something that
I still thought it was very relevant.
Puts that into perspective there. But otherwise, no, it didn't show any particular age there. It didn't. He drove a classic.
Yeah, car, that's the thing. He drove. Yeah, old
convertible
car
at home, and he was working out of an old Turkish.
Yeah, and his
building
phone
that was done up like a relic. A museum, as it were.
Yeah, and I mean his phone was a flip phone, but sometimes in these movies, the character, this character, he's not a wealthy guy, it can kind of make sense.
It suits the part of a fast talking haggler that he's got a little flip Nokia. Maybe it's a burner phone so that
that's right.
He just gets rid of it and gets another one later on when too many people have that phone number.
That's right. Yeah. So I think kind of it stays well in the fact that it is 15 years old now. What about the ladder? So my ladder as it sits is The Lobster, Other Life, Passengers, The Beyond, Revolt, Darkest Dawn, Equals, and Spectral. And I'm going to put G.O.R.A at the lower rung there. My main justification for that is because it is more comedy sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about in the technicalities you mentioned before, things like the sets and stuff. They were really great in this film. They were very sci-fi. So we'll come back to that. But I just think that. Yeah, I mean, really, I almost think this is just a comedy, and it's just got the science fiction plot points to it, So that's why I put it there. Not necessarily, but I think it's really well worth seeing,
I think all the movies that we've done so far are worth having a look at.
Yeah.
I'm going to put G.O.R.A at the bottom as well. Again, for the same reasons. It's a different feel of comedy. Like The Lobster is arguably comedic.
Yeah.
But it was more of a art reflection of life comedy, whereas this was art reflecting art comedy, if you will. So yeah, for sure, I would definitely say we should recommend people do have a watch of it. And because it's Turkish, it has a distinctly different feel to the way the scenes roll out, the way the characters are portrayed. Yeah, and a number of other aspects, but yes.
Well, I think again, you see culture in it. Even when the princess was saying, "I love how Earthlings and humans they dance and they have music." Well, the music was actually it was like belly dancing. You know what I mean? It was again Middle Eastern dancing, not so much Western dancing. When they had that marketplace, it was very Turkish. Again, as I said. The way that the king and the daughter and the marriage was talked about, again, it kind of, I think, questions a little bit of that arranged marriage that you do get in Middle Eastern countries still today. So I think what's great always of watching a film from just a different country, like we're very Western, obviously in Australia, you just get a bit of a different, even like this, it's a science fiction comedy. This could have been made in America, like this same style. And just being the same, but because it's Turkish, it has a bit of a different glimmer on it.
Yeah, it's got that.
It's got their point of view on it. Yeah, it's got a bit of spice. Yeah, and I mean, even when Bob Marley and Arif do connect to each other, they do a very cultural oh, your name, and they sort of sit there and they have a smoke, and you can tell there's that Turkish culture there. Again, I'm not an expert on it, but it's very different to what you would get.
They weren't having a beer, for example, or whiskey, and then consoling themselves about their...
It was a different culture playing out on screen, and that's great. That's what's always good about it. And I mean, when you watch an Australian film, you'll see that's eclectic Australian. You'll see that it's a different culture.
We saw that
presented.
in Other Life, in the way the security guard, that scene where she goes in and she talks to the security guard, that interaction there is a very Australian situation, as opposed to the American films, which will have the security guard is quick to pull a gun and suspicious, and the way you deal with them is by knocking them out as fast as you can. Yeah. Whereas this was like, I think he offered her a cup of tea.
Yes.
And, and they were kind of conversational. And she sort of tricked him to sort of step away, and then she ran for it, type of thing. But, and that's why that's actually one of the reasons I chose G.O.R.A. I thought, well, it's, what's a Turkish take on a science fiction and a comedy? I have no clue.
Yep.
I've not watched a Turkish science fiction film nor a Turkish comedy, so I thought it'd be well worth the experience.
And it was a very good choice. So let us know your relative preferences if you're out there. It'd be still good. I haven't heard anyone's preferences from the films we've picked.
No, the only preferences we've heard is Ben C. Lucas quite liked The Other Life and has liked The Beyond. Yeah.
So these are the directors of
these films. No doubt. I mean, Drew Casson, he didn't exactly say he liked it, but he appreciated our comments on it. So we can. That's their rankings, I'm guessing, but they're kind of biased.
Yeah, they are a bit biased, the directors. So it'd be good to, you hear some people out there listening to the podcast or that have heard of these films and might want to rank them themselves.
If there's any Turkish people out there who want to school us on Turkish pronunciation or culture, please be our guest. We look forward to it.
So what about best scene? Sorry, did you have a best scene in the film?
Yeah, so
apart from the robot, being molested by the farmer.
The very opening
Let's move on from that scene. Okay.
Was very good. Yeah. It came in with the big spaceship flying dramatically through space, the deep rumble, and there was people walking around very efficiently and very
great costumes,
headsets on, the lights and blinking.
Yep.
And then in a very businesslike tones, they were speaking English, throwing the word "fuck" into every second bit.
Yeah,
that was just kind of. I was thinking, oh, okay, I wasn't, because we haven't seen the rest of the film yet. It's just we've sort of seen the Star Wars or classic sci-fi entry. I'm going, is this what film is? What's going on?
Yeah,
is this going to be what it's like the whole way through? And then they interrupt and go, no, let's just talk Turkish.
Yeah,
and then the swearing was gone, and they were just talking in a more sort of conversational voice rather than sort of official, but swearing.
Yeah.
And to follow that same sort of contrast between the English language with the swearing and then the Turkish non-swearing, when Arif is driving away from having failed to sell his photos because the sticker was still on the plate that he'd taken a photo of, and he picked up this old guy.
Yeah, he did.
And Arif says, "Oh, do you mind if I turn the music on?" He says, "Oh, none of that new stuff. They might be saying something bad about my mother, and I wouldn't know." Yeah. He says, no, this is very new. They, how old is your mother? Oh, yeah, no, this is.
They won't be talking about your mother.
They won't even know your mother.
Yeah.
He puts the tape in and it's just like, I'm a motherfucker, I'm a motherfucker. And it's just, and he does that little look towards the camera.
Yeah.
Is that fourth wall sort of acknowledging? Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that was funny, and the old dude's just sort of bobbing his head along to it. It really established a good bit of tone there between this idea that they're kind of a bit conservative, if you like, in this rural Turkish location he was in. But Arif is a man of movement and culture, and
he's trying to make things happen, isn't he?
And he knows that this old dude doesn't speak English, obviously, because he's just bopping along the music. Yeah, so it was a very good establishment there of, I suppose, a bit of tone and humour, and the sharp contrast.
Yep.
Brought about a lot of the humour there, and I did appreciate very much. As honourable mention, of course, to the camping scene, where we get a bit of a science fiction moment where they're pulling these, I can't remember what the trees are, but they're basically sausages hanging off the trees.
Yeah.
They're in the sausage forest where they pick that, because there's Every
It's like dried sausage, you know.
Every
like,
opportunity for them to have just not done any of that.
Yeah.
But this was like, no, we're in science fiction.
Yeah.
And this is a science fiction world where the trees grow sausage.
Yeah.
So I
dried out sausages like, you know, chorizo or something that you can just eat.
Probably some Turkish equivalent of chorizo. Yeah. So I just thought that was a lovely nod to genuine science fiction.
Definitely.
Like there was an actual, it's kind of humorous, but it's not really a joke at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, a tree could produce something somewhat meat-like.
Yeah. And I mean, the robot, I know, says to Bob Marley, he goes, "Oh, you're eating that?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." You know, like you're eating meat, you know, like, and again, that's a bit of a nod to that. Maybe they don't eat meat on this, you know, like it'd be like us kind of going, "Oh, you're eating a banana tree, or, you know, you're eating bananas." That's a bit odd sort of thing, you know, but where you come from, bananas are like expensive and, oh, hang on, that's what our society's like with bananas. But yeah, it's a funny little homage, I think. Yeah,
and there's a bunch of other sort of humorous scenes, but those scenes there I found were quite expressive in tone or in science fiction, actual genuine science fiction nature. So I picked those out there.
Yeah, definitely. I loved that. We've sort of mentioned it, but that Matrix scene with the Commodore 64, the old tapes, the plug on the head. You know, you as an audience watching it, you were kind of thinking, this isn't going to work. Like that was the impression. Like it was like, it's not really going to work, not like the Matrix. But there was such attention to detail in that scene, like we said, with the old tapes. And when he pulled, I'm pretty sure by memory, the tape he pulled out, because he said, "What do you want to learn first?" Pretty much like they say to Neo in the Matrix. And it's like, he pulls out the sex tape. So the old man's been doing the sex tape thing, and he puts in, you know, kung fu, and it's just it's a good old fashioned tape. Like, it's hilarious. And, you know, for people you and my age, well, we know what those tapes were like. They're so shitty, aren't they? And so he puts that in, and it's the hairdresser thing over the head. But then he knows kung fu, and he
twitches a bit.
Yeah, he twitches a bit. But you sort of think, oh God, what's going to happen to him? And but he comes out, and he's got slick back hair, and he's wearing the singlet, and the moustache seemed to be a bit more groomed. And yeah, he was kung fu expert now. Yeah. So I really liked that scene. A little tiny one before they go in the night of the desert, and how they get those vehicles out of the town. Yeah, and they're hovering across. I thought that was really well done, you know. That really was very science fiction, like serious science fiction, I thought this is nice. This is a nice touch. And I think that's probably a major positive of the whole film, science fiction wise, is all the settings. You know, like this, as you said at the start, the spaceship is very impressive, and the people on board are very impressive. Like the uniforms are impressive, all the gadgets are impressive.
The lighting,
like
the dark,
lighting,
the dark light with the bright sort of
yeah. So there's quite a bit, and I'll come back to the couple of settings, but that's good. So let us know what you thought was the best scene, and also I love the connotation to the Fifth Element and the stones. You know, we mentioned that, like,
Fifth Element.
He's like, but I just loved him turning around going, "It's the Fifth Element," and none of the other humans were reacting to that. Yeah. Again, probably connotates the year a bit, doesn't it? You know, like 2004 for this movie. I think the Fifth Element might be about 2000 or something around. It's around the Matrix era.
It was pretty close to then.
Yeah. So again, it was a really lovely kind of connection to it. 1997. Okay, so it's a little bit older. But yeah, probably makes sense that there is that
When
connection.
was it shown in Turkey? I don't know.
Yeah.
Turkish release may have been a bit slower.
So I didn't really have a bad scene. I don't know. Nothing really, you know, it was kind of the comedy of the film. I don't know. I didn't really think anything was like bad, you know. I don't know. Did you have anything
there were a couple of scenes there where I was wondering where they're going to go. Is it like where he gets given a rose from some dude? There's like going to be one of these prison male dominance.
Yeah, that
things.
was a weird bit.
And
actually.
I was kind of where is this? What's this going? And he manages to sort of laugh it off and talk it off and move on. But that left me wondering what they're getting at. But they didn't go down any dark paths or anything. So that was kind of
no.
I think they had to have the scene there somewhere. But
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, I didn't really have anything. So again, if you're out there in podcast land, let us know. Did you have a favourite scene from G.O.R.A, or a scene that you thought they could have done a little bit better? So I know this is the bit that gets your lips wet, Surrey. the science. What type of science do you want to pick out from G.O.R.A? Because sausage trees. That's right. Is this real? Well, I can answer that question. Yes, sausage trees could be real, couldn't they?
Well, they grow in the same habitat as spaghetti trees.
Yeah, that's right.
As often, and that's why you often get spaghetti and sausage in the same dish.
There you go.
No, I was interested by the fact at the end, which seems to be his primary point, and I said it has a bit of connotation now, how many years later, 12 years later, 13 years later, in that he says humans are human even if they're aliens. And because we've got a lot of talk at the moment of asylum seekers or Mexican immigrants in America, and they're being bandied about as alien, and he makes his point. But in a science fiction world, there's a lot of aliens that do just look like humans, like maybe with different coloured hair or something. So the question has to be asked, if we went out into space and we came across a recognisably intelligent being, what is the chance of it being recognisably humanoid in shape? And turns out it's probably not that unlikely. Yes, you could have many peculiar forms, but if we're going to talk about intelligent creatures that are intelligent in the same way that we're intelligent, because people like to say the octopus is really intelligent, and I say I haven't seen it design a Ferrari, or a rocket ship, or write poetry,
or make a science fiction film,
and so. They might be intelligent, but not in the same way that humans are intelligent. They don't have the technological intelligence or that sort of thing. Same with dolphins. They could be very intelligent.
They do a lot of good things, dolphins,
and emotions. Who knows what else? That's all well and good, but they're not flying rocket ships. We are. So we're going to find other aliens flying rocket ships. Then, because these are the ones that always end up looking like a human with a crab stuck to their head. In Star Trek's case. Which it's a great skit where the Klingons have crabs stuck to their head. But so a lot of people have thought about this, and it turns out that if we go through a number of steps to determine how a life form would become intelligent and what it needs and all the rest of it. There's a good argument to say that the basic laws of physics impose a certain set of limitations on the possible shapes that a tool using intelligence can take. And then, for example, when we're talking about the size, we might think that you might end up with an alien the size of a mouse. Could that be intelligent? Flying little spaceships around and all the rest of it. And the answer is probably not, because you need a brain big enough to be sophisticated enough. And we do need a brain of some sort. You need some sort of information processing center. And you could have dinosaurs had distributed brains, for example. Octopuses have a less centralized central nervous system, as it were. But a greater efficiency is to have a denser brain. And if you're going to have a denser brain, it needs to be big enough to be sophisticated enough to be intelligent. And so that's going to rule out a lot of very small creatures. And there's another reason for that, of course, is metabolism. If you are very small, there's an inverse relationship between your body size and the speed of your metabolism. And if you've got a great big juicy brain that's powering through quadratic equations or rocket science, and you're the size of a mouse, mice already have to basically eat constantly just to live. And they're not composing Shakespearean sonnets. So you need to have the right ratio between body size, brain size, and the nutrients you consume. And in order to have enough free time and free energy to expend it doing non-directly survival-related activities, these sort of experimental processes that humans do, where we try to figure out better ways of doing things, whereas animals often don't have that luxury of time. And so we talk about size then, and we're talking about gravity of a planet. And this comes to the sorts of physical limitations that are imposed on an organism in order to evolve. And we're basically looking at planets similar in size to Earth. So a gravity range of say 0.6 to 1.5, because the heavier you are, the higher the gravity, the smaller you're going to have to be. And this is because of just structural integrity and capillary action. And so you basically can't, something like Jupiter crushing atmosphere. Life can't possibly form there in any ways that we would recognize. Someone no doubt would be able to write in and say, well, there could be a hyper-intelligent gas. I'm going to tell you right now, no. No. And if they are intelligent, they're not intelligent in any way that we would recognize or understand. They're about, in the same way we wouldn't know if a cloud passing by was super intelligent or not.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't know whether we were, so pointless discussion. So we're talking about roughly Earth-sized things with roughly Earth sort of gravity, and you need liquid water, you need that Goldilocks zone around a planet to have the right sort of temperatures in order for organic chemistry to mix and to mingle and to create complex structures. And actually there was an interesting experiment the Lego people did. They chucked a whole bunch of Lego into a washing machine and ran it for a while, for a few hours. And when they pulled it out, they found that some reasonable percentage of blocks had spontaneously clicked together just through the tumbling.
Yeah.
And they said this is similar to you put enough organic chemistry into a little pool and mix it up for a while. Sooner or later, it's going to start sticking together. You spread that over a few billion years and you're going to get life.
Yeah.
But that means you need liquid water, you need the right temperatures, all sorts of things.
So Lego can spawn life.
Well, yeah, you got to think it could do if it had... Yeah.
If it kept going around that washing machine for a few billion years.
So we're also going to have endoskeletons.
Yeah.
So bones on the inside of your body, not on the outside.
Okay.
Crabs, ants, and so forth, they have bones on the outside of their body. The problem with that, of course, is you've got a size limitation again.
Yeah.
So once you get to a certain size, you're just too heavy and you can't have a strong enough or thick enough carapace to move around. The other problem is you've got to grow, you have to molt.
Yeah.
So you've got to shed your old shell and you've got to grow a new one. But in the meantime, you're just a little sack of protein waiting to be eaten.
Yeah.
Which means once you get above a certain size, could you imagine something the size of a cow?
Yeah.
Just soft and lying on the ground, unable to move. How long would that last in nature?
Yeah.
It wouldn't. It would be eaten almost instantly. So there is there's these limitations that mean that we're going to have bones on the inside, muscles on the outside.
Yeah.
You're going to have a skin to protect you.
Yeah.
We're talking about you're going to have limbs to manipulate. You're going to have hands of some sort, or something that worked as hands.
Yeah.
Some people have said tentacles.
Yep.
But at present, we haven't observed any tentacles that are sufficiently dexterous. And you need to be upright moving because you need your hands to be used only as hands. Chimpanzees, for example, gorillas have hands, but they walk on their knuckles and things. So they've got much more rugged, and they can't, work on a little touch phone or something. They're clumsy and because their hands aren't made for that. They've been walking on them.
That's right.
So you need that. Then we're talking body shape. How many legs do you need? You need at least two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're upright.
You might argue that someone could have like a snake-like body.
Yep.
But then again, there's a lot of cost involved in keeping your forelimbs up off the ground so you can use them for making tools.
Yeah.
Snakes don't tend to stand up on end and go about the place much.
No.
It's very difficult. So you're not going to have... You might be a centaur then.
Yeah.
So like but you're lacking adaptability. If you've ever thought of how you can move a horse or a dog through spaces, you can't. Like their bodies are awkward to deal with. A human or a humanoid sort of upright form has your eyes up high so you can see predators and you can hear things well. You get your hands free. So you're very lithe and limber. You can crouch down into a very small compact space or expand out to be a large one. If you're like half horse, you can't do that sort of thing.
You're stuck, aren't you?
You've also then got a whole bunch of extra muscle mass doing what?
Yeah.
Why do you have 4 legs? To run fast? Well, humans, we don't need to run fast.
No.
Because we're smart.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the way it works, So if you can run fast to evade predators, maybe you don't need to become intelligent.
No.
And so forth. So what we're going to end up with then, also you need to probably omnivorous, which means you're going to need some way of eating your food. And it's going to have to be a way that can be relatively sterile. Mm-hmm. Not really sterile, but relatively able to control for disease.
Yeah, that's right.
So just flopping down and absorb things through your skin is not going to work very well, but munching through a mouth will do. Mm-hmm. And eating meat or something similar to that, maybe sausage trees, because they've got a very dense form of nutrition, like meat. Yeah. When I was doing nutrition for my personal training, it's something like lamb, eating a sheep will give you like 99% of everything you need.
Yeah.
You'll need some vitamin C. That's the only thing you really need.
Mm.
So lamb with an orange sauce and you're set.
Yep.
You know, or a lamb kebab with capsicum.
Yeah.
and you've got yourself everything, you know, you won't thrive.
No.
But you've got all the nutrients
You'll
you
survive.
need, and you can carry that in one hand.
Yep.
Whereas if you look at gorillas, for example, great big things, mobile and all the rest of it, but they just basically have to spend their whole time eating.
Yeah.
Because leaves and things have very low nutrition, which means they've got to eat a lot.
Yeah.
So they spend so much of their time just eating and not moving much.
Mm.
And also because they don't have to hunt trees, they don't have to gain that intelligence.
No.
Gorillas
Right,
are
all around.
smart,
Yeah.
but that's more of a social intelligence they have rather than, you know, figuring out how to make a car.
Yeah.
Or write a textbook or something. And then we're talking about the children that we have are going to be not too dissimilar.
Yep.
And human babies, for example, are just so helpless.
Yep.
You look at a horse will give birth, and then within half an hour or something, the baby's up and running around.
Yep.
And same with a dog. You know, within 3 months, a dog has attained most of its body size it's going to have. By the end of 12 months, it's fully grown.
Yep.
You know, it's still a puppy, but it's full size. 12 months of a baby is a baby.
Still a baby. Yeah.
Right, you know, my kids didn't start walking till 13, 14 months.
Yeah.
So still just a baby lying on the floor.
Yeah, yeah. And I did think this. I was like, geez, human baby, when R3 came along, I was like, geez, they're freaking helpless. Like they really are, they would die in the wild really quickly if it wasn't for us.
But the thought is that there's two parts to that. One is so much effort is put into creating a brain that doesn't know anything but can learn a great deal.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, and so many animals, they just know already how to do everything.
Mm.
You could, if you took a puppy once it's weaned off mother's milk,
Yeah.
you could probably just set it free, set it wild.
Yeah.
And it would
survive.
forage and find food, and
Yeah.
it would know how to swim, and it would, you know, all these sort of things.
Because that's all it needs to know. Is,
Birds
right?
learn to just start flying.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Like they don't need to.
They learn by falling.
They learn as such, but they already do it. You know,
it's
humans
inside their nature.
have to go to school to fly,
Yeah.
but were able to create schools to learn to fly.
Yes.
And the cost of that means that we've got to have this very complex brain, which has got nothing in it.
Mm.
And we've got to then have some way of sticking stuff into it and staying alive long enough. So we have these parental figures who have to look after us. All of our energy has gone to our brain, not into our physical development.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, isn't it? Like we, as humans, we basically are a bit of a blank slate and we start again. But
Absolutely.
we do have a bit of inherent knowledge from our predecessors. Because that is a school of thought that I've heard a bit about that.
There is some interesting...
Like the next generation tend to already understand, like, for example, technology. Like our kids will be probably far ahead of understanding technology than you and I will. Just naturally, like we have to learn it more as you get older.
That's moving into the area of epigenetics, which is very interesting, where they study how... So the DNA doesn't change, but the way it expresses changes.
That's right, yeah.
And they found, for example, children of older fathers live longer.
Yeah, right. Wow.
They have a longer lifespan.
Interesting.
They have a couple of disadvantages of something I can't remember what it is because I'm just going to ignore that, being that I'm an older father. But and my father was older when he had me. So and they're also the children of people who are athletically active, and they've got studies where they have say an athletic parents have their first child. But then, of course, lifestyle changes, and the second child comes along, and they're not athletic, and they check out the DNA being expressed, and there's distinct differences there between these children from the same parents. Like because there's different things being passed on when you're athletic and fit and running around. The children you have are then generally more likely to be fit and athletic. Whereas if you're sedentary and studious, your children are more likely. So as you say,
there's a learnt behaviour, but still a blank brain, basically.
So it's very fascinating. So what this means, though, is that when we go out into space, and if we came across aliens and they were roughly, 150 to 200 centimeters tall, 1.5 to 2 meters sort of tall, they had, say, 2 arms, symmetrical as well. We've never. I'm going to say never, but we're almost certainly not encountered any asymmetric life here on Earth. It's the way chemistry operates. So crystals are the same thing. They grow according to their structure, and it appears that life does too. Even trees, largely symmetrical. You cut them down the middle and so on. So we're going to see these people, they're about that sort of size. They're going to be similar sort of weight if they're coming from a planet that's within our range of gravities. And they're probably going to have 2 arms. They could have 4, but you've got to ask the question, what's the purpose? Like evolutionary, what were the other 2? You could come up with something, but it seemed likely.
But I even think, like I'm agreeing with what you're saying, like I think size-wise, but things like arms and legs, not so much looking like a centaur, but maybe having 3 legs could be a good thing. Maybe having 4 arms could be a really good thing.
Could you imagine
3 eyes might be a really, a
tail might become like a 3rd leg.
That's right,
in many ways. If I'm not sure, kangaroos use a tail, for example, almost like a 3rd leg. And they're walking.
Well, because I'm just even thinking, because we are a bit of a product of, we evolve, my knowledge of evolution, we do evolve a bit from the product of our environment. So if you're talking about an alien planet with sausage trees, you don't really know. There could have been a creature that competed with that creature. And so therefore, over time, we had to evolve a 3rd leg or a tail or something that was used to defeat that creature. You know what I mean? Like, so the environment could dictate something a little bit different like that. Or like eyes in the back of your head or something.
If you're still talking sausage trees or the equivalent, some sort of highly nutritious food source, which is, highly sought after. Then, you might well find that
we had to have longer legs.
Needed to have legs that could sort of extend up high.
That's right.
But then they needed a tail to balance. And that push down the ground, and over time,
like they could have multiple joints as well. Or something.
You know what I mean? The number of joints.
But I think you're totally right that we're probably looking at a creature that's similar to us.
Recognize it. It's going to have different colorations. It's not going to have wildly different colorations either, though, because they're going to be exposed to similar radiations. They'll probably see in a slightly different spectrum, but even then, it's got to be somewhat similar because once you go up too high above ultraviolet, the photons themselves aren't the sort of things that interact well with organic cells. They're certainly not the sort of things that, even ultraviolet, it's not the sort of things you want to have interact with something delicate like an eye. Because they're too energetic. They'll burn stuff out. And maybe they've got some other way of sensing that, like little rough bone patches which detect that, but not eyes as such. And likewise, you go too far below infrared and it's not energetic enough to be seen. So their vision is going to be in that range, that it'll be split. They'll see different colours based on the sun. They could come from a very, very similar sun to ours and have the same vision spectrum, but quite likely it'll be shifted up or down within there. But they're not going to be seeing X-rays.
No.
They might... No, they're not, because X-rays tend to get hit by bones, and maybe they can have a bone sensor. But why would they have that?
That's right. But I suppose that's why in our culture there's such a story of being abducted by aliens, that we have these little white men, really big brains, big eyes. They're not that unlike us in a way, are they? That vision, it's, it might be a little bit short, or they're very white, or they're very long, but really they kind of are a human. They're a version of a human. Most of the time it's 2 arms, 2 legs, just a big head.
Well, some people sort of put forward the idea, of course, that in order for them to cross long distances of space, they're going to have to evolve in a space. Like if we want to become a truly spacefaring race, short of us discovering like hyperspace jumps and artificial gravity and perfect gravity radiation shielding, which we could do with black hole generators.
That's right. Yep, going back. Yep.
That would, like a black hole would shield you from
that company now.
From all of that, But short of that, we're going to have to evolve into space. Because in microgravities, or free fall situations, our bodies just don't work right. Our veins were designed to have gravitational resistance to pump blood against. Our eyes, the shape of our eye is in part determined as a resistance against gravity. So when you're in space, a lot of astronauts, they go short-sighted because their eyes are used to being sort of pulled down and squished. Suddenly not squished anymore. the focus changes.
Yeah.
And likewise, your brain, your fluids,
Yeah.
your whole body is kind of designed to deal with gravity. In space, you've got radiation and no gravity. You need a different creature.
You do. Yeah.
Which, hey, you could well come across. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if the aliens, if we came across aliens to find that they were recognizably familiar in their, they're not going to be weird gaseous creatures with tentacles. Like that, we probably wouldn't recognize them as intelligent, for starters, and they probably wouldn't recognize us as intelligent. But if we're talking about tool-using, language-having, evolved creatures, probably not too similar. So the whole human is human, even if you're alien. I think we can go with that.
Yeah, so the G.O.R.A idea.
G.O.R.A has the right idea. So it's kind of convoluted, and there's a lot of variation. There's a huge number of stars and planets and environments. But
it could be a strong connection.
Hey, if humans have evolved in one place, something like humans will evolve in another place for sure.
I firmly believe it. I just whether people have experienced it or not, as they claim, I'm not sure.
Yeah, like the chances of that are so slim, mainly because of time differentials. If you're talking about humans evolved over the course of 100,000 years, say, modernish humans, and then only in the past 2,000 years we've started to actually properly develop. It's only in the past 200-300 years that we've really had technological advances. So out of a 15 billion year old galaxy, you're talking about a 200-year gap.
It's a blip, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so minute. There could have been aliens visited this part of the galaxy 50 million years ago and went, that's just some dinosaurs. Well, whatevs. We'll leave that alone. Not interested. Or even still, they could have been broadcasting doing their SETI themselves. Going, there's no intelligent life out there. Where is it? Well, you've got to wait a few 100,000 years and you'll be there. Oh, but you'll be gone. Yeah, that's the way it is. So, we're going to be displaced not in space, but in time. Still, I hold out hope.
Yeah, we hold out hope.
If there's any aliens listening to this broadcast, feel free to contact us and let us know.
My context to that, but is if you take the movie like Alien, and I mean that impression when we talked about it, I mean, how does that alien get around and pop its eggs out everywhere, and it takes over spaceships, doesn't it? You know, like, so it's not a bacteria, but it's it's like rats in a way, or something, like on board a ship, then kills everyone on board that ship, and then maybe that ship crashes or returns to another ship or another planet, and then all of a sudden that alien is now on that planet. But that alien is not sophisticated enough to create ships, is it?
No.
So going back to like what you said about an octopus creature. It's not opening
up the textbooks on board the ship and reading through the instruction manual.
It's got the ability to breed and lay lots of eggs, and those eggs are vicious, and the creature's vicious enough that it just kind of survives, doesn't it? And it moves colonies and planets. It hasn't had to
be intelligent.
No, it hasn't, because its evolution dictates that it still survives that way. Yeah, so I guess that could be the cliche to that. The whole scenario is that humans may go somewhere one day and there's a creature that kind of hijacks its way back.
We can only hope. We can only hope. Okay, so there we go. That's the chances of alien life looking like humans.
Yes.
I think it's not too far off.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be surprised to find them looking that human. Like, you're going to have to expect weird flaps and other bits and pieces here and there, and spines and spikes and fur in places we don't have fur, and
well, just because even just culturally,
different shaped mouths and jaws, and who knows what else.
So look, I don't think there's a lot to talk about with technicalities of this film, being that it is a bit of a slapstick comedy. And I've mentioned a couple of these things. I thought props, costume, sets were outstanding. Like, I really thought they were really great. From the minute the film starts, that spaceship is really great. The men and women are wearing really high-tech, cool costumes. They were really nice, I thought. And I've also thought that setting of where the humans were, it was a really grand prison, like a real sci-fi prison.
Yeah, remarkably nice considering how poorly they were being treated.
Yes. And it was really big, it felt like a really large scale, and they did some really cool camera work of cranes over the top, and he sort of went from one end of it to the other. When he walked through, they dollied through with him. I mean, overall, the film is shot really well. Like it's a well composed film. There's just probably nothing that arty-farty cinematography stands out. It's just like a really good sort of textbook film with the camera angles. But I think, the major positive, or the major real sci-fi awesome thing was all of that. The props and the settings and all that are really great. Fourth wall is broken. Quite often you see the fourth wall broken. It can be in comedies. But quite often it is more like in a film that's super serious, it's taken itself super seriously, or they want to mention, I'm pretty sure in the James Franco biography of The Room, I think he breaks the fourth wall on that. So sometimes like an autobiography breaks it, to sort of say, well, this is the difference between the real world and the movie world. But yeah, this movie did a couple of times. We had it.
Limitless does it
Limitless
as well.
yeah.
The narrator saying, I guess you wonder how I got here type of thing.
Yeah, so that does it. Movies are done. It's pretty rare because it jumps the audience out of its seat. Like you're suddenly taken into the process of the film. They did do it, and they used it to comedy effect. There's a moment that a Riff and the robot, they both like look at the camera. Yeah. And they, I think it's when they're saying the plot point of them escaping or whatever, and they like both kind of look at us, kind of doing it. They do it at the very start. Let's not speak, English. Let's speak Turkish. Yeah. A Riff, as you said, also like kind of winks to the camera. And even at the end when she's sort of saying, "Will I fit in?" He's like, "Yeah, you will." Like who knows? I don't think there's a lot else to say. And then what we said about the homages. So. Yeah, The Matrix, Star Wars, Mission Impossible, The Fifth Element. I think they were all the main ones that I picked up on, joke-wise and cinematography-wise. I mean, those spaceships I said that they hopped on, they were very Star Wars as well, weren't they? G.O.R.A was definitely the forces with you, the homage to Star Wars that way. So, but it was all done in it was respectful and funny. Like it wasn't taking the piss of that. It was the same with The Matrix. Like when they did that scene of him, like the 360 bullet effect kind of idea, like they were doing it really shittily, and he was saying, "No, spin the camera around, spin the camera." It wasn't like they were taking the piss out of The Matrix. They were taking the piss out of themselves.
Yeah, discovered he had these kung fu powers and was decided that he had to do it like The Matrix.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Why wouldn't you? So that's pretty much it for the technicalities. This one, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so. It was well delivered.
Yep.
And I think they avoided overcomplicating the film in order to deliver the dialogue where much of the humor was.
Yep.
As well as some visual things. There's some lightsaber usage.
Yes, there was,
at the start where he's swinging it around and some just.
Yeah.
Logar takes it off and says, "What are you going to do with a torch?"
Yeah.
Does it aside.
Yeah.
That's quite funny.
Yeah. And, the plot as well, which we won't go back over or anything, but I mean, it's a pretty straightforward plot, but there's good plot points there moving it along. It's very Hollywood, really, plot-wise. So even though it's a Turkish movie, it does, tick a lot of those boxes.
It does. It gets through some of the confrontation a little bit strangely.
Yeah.
Not sure whether that's a Turkish take on it or if that's just a comedic take on it.
Yeah.
Not sure. I'd have to watch more Turkish comedy.
Yes, yeah. And we've probably talked about the social commentary really, like you said, like the humans are, the message is a hopeful message. It's that humans are human even if they are alien, but that's a serious message that, as you say, like can be the same with refugees and culture and all that sort of stuff.
Tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was quite good. It was nice. It was charming.
Yep.
It was witty. It was a bit slapsticky here and there. Had some, just great references back to movies that I've loved.
Yep.
And it was very good. Yes. So what is next week's episode or next fortnight's episode?
Well, it's my choice, Synchronicity. Which I know nothing about now, and I can't even remember the little thing I picked off Netflix's range about it, so we'll go in cold.
Kevin Bacon?
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure if I've seen this one or not.
well, anyway, that will be the one that we will have a look at for next time. Again, Going Cold, I will. And have a look at it. Look forward to talking about that one. So anyone that's out there listening to the podcast, check in with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Message us, listen to the podcast through Spotify, iTunes, your website, gravityundone.net. Let us know what you think.
Telepathy.
Yes, you can do it that way.
Shop.gravityundone.net to see some cool merch. Coffee mug, t-shirt. There's a backpack.
Ooh.
It's a groovy backpack. It's got a Star Wars style, yellow text.
Yeah, right.
Intro thing, but it's the intro to the space brains. Two brains come from a distant galaxy, pulsing with strange energy type of thing.
Excellent. So check that out. Yeah, that sounds great. All right.
See ya.
Ciao.